Welcome back to the Legislative Lounge. This is the relaunch of the Legislative Lounge. Now, if you guys haven't followed us in a while, we are glad to be back. My partner in crime, Professor Mikey, goes by on social media, but we have Mike Bales here with us. How are you doing today, Mike?
It's a beautiful day in Arizona. It is really, really hot.
Oh, absolutely. Here in Texas as well, it's in the mid 90s, humidity. You know, that's the Houston area for you.
A lot of crazy things have happened. A
Man,
lot
it
of
has
rules.
been a wild several months, but this last week was just one of the major issues with what's being made in America when it comes to precedents being made by the Supreme Court, which is what we're talking about here today. Number of different cases were reviewed and a number of different rulings were ruled out. And it's almost like it's a 50-50 in regards to how, we had good and we had bad. So, what were your thoughts on a couple of these items?
When we look at the Supreme Court ruling on Trump v. Barbara, that just crushed my soul. And that had to do with birthright citizenship. And, birthright citizenship is something that should be cherished. And we should actually look at the historical context of why it was implemented in the first place. And that goes back to the 1860s with the acceptance of children of slaves. And the reason they went down that route is because the slaves, when they gained their freedom, they had no allegiance to any other land. They were Americans.
Right.
And that, roped in their children as well. And that's where this whole precedence comes from. And then we go to the 1890s with US v. Wong Kim Ark, and that kind of solidified the domicile process, which was discussed
Mhm.
in this case.
Right. And a lot of people don't understand the historical context of this 14th Amendment to begin with. Like a lot of people want to just say, oh, it says any person's born in America, right? Naturally born in America. But understanding the arguments being made from the representatives and the senators that actually wrote and authored the 14th Amendment is vital to understanding the actual intent behind what it was. One of the main architects of it is John Bingham of Ohio, a representative that literally wrote in the first paragraph, I believe, he wrote the first few lines of the 14th Amendment, but also James Howard out of Michigan, a senator, also made arguments on the Senate floor, both of them specifically stating in their arguments that it doesn't pertain to everybody like people claimed it did. And I actually have the excerpt from the Senate arguments of the House floor, and it specifically says that this will not, of course, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens, who belong to families of ambassadors or foreign ministers. So that in itself is one of the most vital pieces of this. But there are some people that claim that because of the way that the argument was being made by the Trump administration and the lawyers in how they framed it was way too broad, that it included a downfall for those that were of Native American descent or Puerto Rican or any of our territories. And it was a kind of a gray area, and that's what kind of swayed the individuals like Roberts, Chief Roberts, and Amy Coney Barrett. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, we have to, I think a lot of these justices fall short on the researchability aspect of this because we had in the late 1800s, early 1900s, the American Native Citizenship Act, I believe, was
Mm-hmm.
around that time, which was inclusionary of Native Americans being Americans. And
Right.
I think they fell short on that aspect. And, when we look at this, like USB Wong Kim Ark in the 1890s concerned a Chinese born, right? And there was confliction in if he was an American based on his parental lineage. And his
Mm-hmm.
parents were actually Chinese nationals, but they were legally domiciled here, which was the
Right.
crux of the argument made in USB Wong Kim Ark. And a lot of people like to take that out of context and try to apply it to people who are illegally here.
Right. And one of my biggest issues when reading through some of the opinions, yes, you guys, if you haven't been around me and Mike or watched the legislative rounds, we're one of those nerds that actually read all of the information. I'm still going through it, but I've read the majority of the 193 ruling itself. And one particular area kind of stood out to me in regards to Chief Justice Roberts making a statement in there that almost as if it's actually false just because of the historical context of the 14th Amendment. He specifically said that and this is, I believe, verbatim, the framers of the 14th Amendment extended this promise to all freeborn individuals of this land. And when you look, what we've already explained through what John Bingham and James Howard said on the Senate and House floor during the debates, that's clearly not true. So was Chief Roberts just blatantly lying, or is he just ignoring history, or
I
both?
think I think he's just ignorant, right? When we look at the words of John Bingham, he was incredibly cautious about applying birthright citizenship to lottie dottie everybody because of the allegiance to foreign nations.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And when it
and
comes to,
oh, go ahead.
go ahead,
Yeah,
go ahead,
so
Mike.
like when we look at Justice Roberts and his opinion that he wrote, he said children born in the United States to parents unlawfully or temporarily present are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States and are citizens at birth under the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause. That is so broad, and that is such a, forgive my French, a bastardization of the explanations regarding the framers of the 14th Amendment in the first place.
Right, and that was my point in saying that about Chief Roberts, because that's untrue, right? Because not because of what John Bingham and James Howard said on the House and Senate floor, but because of the fact that it didn't apply to everybody in the beginning. As a native individual myself and come from a native family, I know this firsthand because it didn't apply to Native Americans. Native Americans actually needed an entirely different bill to actually accept them as American citizens, which didn't come around until 1923. So the issue is with me, with Chief Roberts, is in my mind, you're blatantly lying.
Yeah. And when we look at the other, like I side so much with Clarence Thomas on this issue. Like when we look at what he said in regards to this, he said the court today takes the extraordinary step of holding facially unconstitutional the president's order excluding from citizenship the children of foreign temporary visitors and illegal aliens. Both the Civil Rights Act and the Citizenship Clause guaranteed citizenship to persons born and domiciled in the United States, regardless of their race. Neither guaranteed citizenship to persons who were not domiciled in the United States. Blacks were entitled to citizenship because they were Americans. They had no other homeland, owed no allegiance to any foreign power, and were subject to no other authority. They fought and bled in the same battles, gained and gloried in the same victories, and were liable to be called upon to defend America in time of war alongside every other citizen. Like that is so powerful, and it's just being glossed over.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. And of course, we know President Trump, he always has something to say. So I don't know if you saw some of his comments in regards to it, but one of the funniest one, because he made a lot of comments today, yeah, on Truth Social, if you're on there. One of them, my favorite, was the point where he quite literally said, "Congratulations to President Xi and the great nation of China for their big win of birthright citizenship." I thought that was just funny, just because of the whole. We go back to the Wong Kim Ark situation because he was a Chinese nationalist and went through that entire situation and how that's connected. It's just he always has those zingers, and people think that he's an not an educated man, but in all reality, if you actually knew what he was referring to, you would understand just how smart he is, just because of he can use the history of something like Wong Kim Ark and apply it in such a funny way that's like, hey, that was dumb. This is why.
Yeah, 100%. Um, and it's very unfortunate. And I know a lot of people may have got a little confused with Trump v. Casa and then Trump v. Barbara because there was a 6-3 ruling on the 29th,
Right.
which actually went into the nationwide injunctions regarding this topic. And
Hmm.
the Supreme Court determined that the federal courts held no jurisdiction over that. That's why it was a 6-3 decision. Now, as far as birthright citizenship and the unconstitutionality of it, as determined by the 5 Supreme Court justices, that was Trump v. Barbara.
Oh, okay. So that's where a lot of people were getting confused because we saw it all over the place. There was a 5-4 versus a 6-3. So there was actually two different cases for those that aren't aware of it and why you're seeing two different numbers. They're just kind of connected in a certain manner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go. But yeah, I mean, when we're taking a look at several different areas, I know that the Supreme Court also had a couple other different rulings that came over in the last 48 hours. Any of them stick out to you mostly, Mike? Because I know that this is your area.
Oh, let's see. I don't like the mail-in ballots. I thought the mail-in ballots
Right.
was BS. Like for me, when it comes to voting, I think it should be day of, and everything should be counted the
Yes.
day of, and the results should be released the next day. Mail-in ballots should not be a thing. There's no way to properly control that and maintain security of that. We saw this in California.
Right. I mean, that was the one thing that I was going to bring up. I mean, if anybody has any questions about mail-in ballot, it would be the LA area specifically. Everything that happened with the whole Pratt situation, it's like you take a look at that and you're kind of like, you can't sit here and say something fishy isn't going on. Regardless of how you feel about, oh, massive amounts of fraud, any amount of fraud in any election in any level is an issue. But what's even funnier than that is not the fact that the level of just blatant, obvious fraud that was going on there. It was the fact that now, especially in LA, they're literally trying to pass law in that area allowing non-citizen individuals to actually vote in their elections.
Yeah,
Not sure if you heard
and
about that.
yeah, oh yeah. I paid attention because I grew up in California. So naturally, for me, I want my home state to thrive. And
Right.
when you look at the leadership in that state, it has done the exact opposite. People are doing it's seen a mass exodus of people. And all those people in California are going to places like Arizona, like Texas, and they're bringing their California mindsets to our states and Californianizing it. I just made a new word. So,
This is for everybody out there. Texas is closed to California and the West Coast. Do not come here. I hear Michigan's a great place to go. It's got four seasons. Where I used to live. Go there. Stay away from here, please.
yeah, go to Minnesota. They like y'all there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You want fraud? Minnesota is your state. Like you could do it freely, and you could become a millionaire while doing it.
Hmm.
It's funny, we sit here, we talk about fraud in such a national stage. It's like you sit here and you think about places like Minnesota, and you sit back and say, like, this is so obvious. We have the paper trail, we have the transactions, right? And we're starting to see people actually be put away prison on this, which is a great deal. But then you get people that you know were a part of it, like the governor, like the lieutenant governor, and the other people around it. We've got the representative Ilhan Omar was a part of it. We have the documents, and yet they're still in office. I'll never fathom how our country operates while allowing that to happen.
I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. When it comes to the investigation process, it does take time. And if anybody knows the
Hmm.
court systems, like we have to understand that these processes take time. Getting cases on the docket, even emergency dockets, take time.
Hmm.
Like this birthright citizenship case. That executive order came out last year, early last year, and
Day one.
the injunctions regarding it came out the day after after the executive order dropped.
Right.
So it takes time. And
For sure.
what's interesting about the birthright citizenship, which I know this happened a while ago, you and I were discussing it offline, but Senator Rand Paul introduced legislation to for Congress to act, which is something that President Trump called on Congress to do, as far as revoking birthright citizenship.
Right. And I actually saw, which I'm trying to bring up now, I saw another representative. I believe uh, it was a representative out of the House. Yeah, so Bernie Moreno,
That sounds right.
Moreno. He actually is, which is kind of ironic because we're sitting here talking about abolishing, birthright citizenship for illegals, and the champions for the illegals are the Democrats right now. But what he's doing is actually quite interesting. He's actually a senator, so there's going to be two pieces of it. The one from your guy, and then also from him. But this one is an exact copy of Harry Reid's, who was a Democrat, 1993 legislation to abolish the birthright citizenship. So it's like back in the early 90s, Democrats obviously had some kind of cognitive ability to realize, hey, these people aren't from here. They don't just get nationality because they pooped out a baby here. So what's changed over the last, 33 years?
Well, we can look at just last the 2024 election. Like we saw such a big tipping point in a lot of the states towards the conservative right, and that's how we got Trump in office. People got tired of the Democrat leadership, and we saw this. We saw this all over social media. We were tired of the censorship. You and I are very big victims of that censorship.
Man, I just lost another social media account. Like I thought, for instance, I thought America. This kind of a little side thing. I thought when America took over something like TikTok, it might be a little bit better, right? No, it's just not. It's sad
It,
how
it,
much our own government wants to subjugate us to what they want us to do. Like we could even talk about recently, a couple weeks ago, the House of Representatives passed the whole FISA warrants again. It's like that was the main crux of spying on Americans. Like you literally just told all of America through your vote, we're okay with spying on you. Your privacy means absolutely nothing to us.
yeah. If anything, that should be a case taken up to the Supreme Court on Fourth Amendment violations.
But yet these are the people that we elected to represent us, and they're not even listening to us.
Well,
We can even go further about how much they're not listening to us. And this is a bipartisan issue. Voter ID laws, the Save America Act, right?
hmm
86% of Americans, 86% of Americans, regardless of political affiliation, want federalized ID regulation, right? We need ID to shoot everything. Go fishing, go driving, go get a gun. I mean, like even apply for your food stamps. You need an ID. So why is that different from electing the people that put all of the laws surrounding all those other issues to do the exact same thing?
you
I'll
know,
never understand it.
that's what the actual First Amendment was conceived for. It was for us to peaceably assemble, not walk down Main Street holding picket signs and crying and whining. You're to peaceably assemble and and petition your government for a redress of grievances. If there's any time to
Mm.
protest in a direction, direct your protest towards your representatives. Go to your community meetings. Go to your capital and address these issues. That's what that First Amendment's for.
Right, absolutely. But the one thing that I don't understand is you have individuals in leadership positions within Congress, like John Thune. Like, I can't stand the man because he just seems like a spineless individual. I said it from the beginning, Mike, and if anybody watched the Legislative Lounge when we were launched last time, you know there are two people in Congress that I absolutely can't stand that are Republican. I can't stand them. I wish they were never put in place. And that is John Thune and Mike Johnson. Guess what? They're the leaders of both chambers. But actually, as of lately, shocking, breaking news, I don't have a problem with Mike Johnson anymore. Because it actually seems like he's turned the tide, right? He's really actually fighting for a lot of what we want now. And it seemed as though he was just
hmm
seeing, because he tried to make the Democrats feel good and all these backroom deals. But it seems as though that tide has shifted to the Senate now, and I don't understand why.
Well, if we look at it, a lot of positive legislation is coming out of the House of Representatives, and that arms the Speaker of the House to direct all the frustration towards the Senate, which is what we've been seeing. And a lot of frustration from Republicans and those of us on the right are directing our attention towards the Senate Majority Leader.
Right. I mean, when you have people like Rand Paul and MAGA, like MAGA senators coming together on multiple topics that John Thune is just unwilling, like, we have a problem with the leadership. Why is he
Mm-hmm.
still there? Why are senators who know that this man isn't right for the job not coming out, calling for a vote of no confidence, and removing and replacing him? I don't understand it.
Yeah, yeah, I think that that'll be hopefully addressed in the near future. I hope and pray. Um, as back to midterms, like if you're watching this, these are the elections that you need to care about. The presidential election is important, but there's no
Right,
greater avenue towards making a change in your state and local communities more than the midterm elections. And it's so important to get
right.
Republican leadership in these positions of power. That way we can start implementing what is actually American voter ID. Even at the state level, you could do it just at the state level. It doesn't have to be federal. You can make changes at your local and state level. You can make changes
Right.
on in certain facets, immigration law, getting rid of your sanctuary cities. Because for me, that's an infringement on between the state and federal government.
Right. And I know that actually Florida is trying to pass their own, a little for you Floridians out there. The Florida Senate and House are actually trying to come together under the guise of, or the rule of Ron DeSantis, the governor, in creating what they call their own version of the Save America Act for the state of Florida. And a lot of people argue that that's how it should be done. But honestly, when it comes to federal elections, there needs to be federal regulation of those elections. Now, yes, we understand how the Constitution works and that votes are completed state by state, but there has to be a baseline for all of those elections in order for us to have any sense of first of all, clarity, honesty, and just trust in the system and of itself, but just a way to baseline stream our elections so that way we're not waiting 2, 3 weeks to get final results.
100%. There should be no reason why we should be waiting days after an election for things to be tallied up and get these results. And when it comes to voter ID, I think it's common sense. And the American people have spoken. They want it, and we need it. And that goes for midterm elections, that goes for presidential elections, that goes for your local elections. Like, we need security in this country. And we have a plethora of individuals being arrested just in the past few weeks even and going back months for election frauds. We have several examples of people that are illegally here that are voting in our elections. That should piss off every American, especially
Right.
if you immigrated into this country properly.
Absolutely. I talk to immigrants that come here legally and obtain their citizenship all the time, and they're more hateful. No, I shouldn't say that. They can't stand them more than we can as natural born Americans. Like when I talk to an immigrant who becomes naturalized and like they have some of the most outspoken words about these illegals. It's crazy to think that it's like we as Americans should be more upset about it because they're altering the way we, how our country is working because they're they're here and illegally changing things. They're not wanting to assimilate in most cases, right? They want to bring their culture, which is fine. That's fine. As long as you're not trying to change things, because we are a melting pot, right? If you're not trying to change the actual dynamics of how we operate and what makes America great and why people want to come here, then we have no problem. But when you come here and you try and illegally vote and you try to change things and get people into positions that you know that are going to change or try to alter things, like look at New York, the chaos that's going on in New York. It's just crazy to me what's going on over there. But I mean, here in Texas, we have a lot of people that are, abusing H-1B visas and all of these issues that we'll get into another episode, because the H-1B visa situation not only affects Texas, we've got California, even Arizona, where Mike is. And those are huge topics right now because these people are coming in not wanting to assimilate and change how we do things here, which is a big problem.
Yeah, 100% I agree. With people come to this country for prosperity, for a better life. And when we look at how the country was conceived, it was conceived on Christian principles. And you'll find no other country has the amount of freedom that we have, other than, na I can't even cite another Christian nation. And a lot of people don't like that terminology. They believe in separation of church and state, which is not a concept found in the United States Constitution. It was actually written in a letter by Thomas Jefferson to the Danbury Association, right?
Right.
The Christian
Funny enough, I
principles
actually,
allow.
oh,
Oh, sorry about
I
that.
say
But
sorry.
the
Funny enough, there's a delay.
yeah, yeah.
Funny
There's a
enough,
slight
though, what I
delay.
was saying is that there was an individual that was talking about this on social media just before I came here, and it's funny how so many people actually believe that that's part of our Constitution. When you break down the First Amendment, they always go to the First Amendment where it says, "Oh, the government shall make no respecter of respecting of religion." It's like that's not the same thing. When you're reading the Constitution, you have to read it for what it is. And what is the Constitution, Mike? It's a contract, right? It's contract law. You have to be able to read it like a contract. You can't use general language definitions when reading a contract. You have to have something like Black's Law Dictionary to understand what respecting means in the spec. So what it's referring to is the fact that the church, right, is going to have the U.S. government is going to have any bearing on the church and what they do. They're not going to nationalize and say this is our country's religion, like a lot of people in the Middle East and Asia and some places in Asia and maybe even North Africa. I know that they nominate or they deem a specific religion as their state religion. That's all that's saying. It's not saying that we can't have interaction from the church into government, because that just would be completely unhistorical due to the fact that our founding fathers, right, we had 55 signers of the Declaration. 40 of them had seminary degrees. Over 50 of them had proclaimed their faith through a number of different writings, books, or what have you.
When you look at this, right, when you look at the concept of the First Amendment, and I'll take Texas as an example because Texas just placed the Bible into their curriculum, biblical reading. And there's a lot of people that are upset about that because they don't understand the First Amendment. The First Amendment restricts Congress from infringing on the church. It doesn't it doesn't create any type of restriction for states allowing biblical scriptural readings in their school curriculum, right? The First Amendment is regarding worship, not education, right? And when it comes to the history of this nation, you have to include Christianity into that because you have to understand the morals and the concepts that were embodied by our founding fathers.
Right. I mean, the entire purpose of the First Amendment was the reason why they came here in the first place, which was religious persecution. So when you say, oh, it's a separation of the two of them, no, it's the separation of the government from the church because they came here because the government, the monarchy, was literally killing them for believing specific ways. So that's the entire intent of respecting, like the state saying, look, we're not a Christian, or we're not going to say that this or we regard Christianity or we regard this or regard that, but we're not going to infringe on them having a place within the government. So we're not going to affect what they do on a daily basis.
100%. When we look at it, like the reason that that applies is, and remember, the Constitution is a social contract between the states and the federal government. Now, the founders couldn't decide on what branch or denomination of Christianity should be, the main focus of the nation. That you had
Right.
states that may have been Catholic, right? You had states,
Right.
and the other states were Protestant, okay? And
Hmm.
they didn't want that infringement. They didn't want a coercement due to a lack of agreement, which is why they
Right.
left it up to the states. And they, back in those times, up until I want to say the late 1800s, there were still churches at the state level.
Right, absolutely. And I mean, you can take a look at each individual state constitution, even that of California, referencing God in some particular manner. So religion has always been a part of government, and government always oversteps and intrudes on religion. Now, you believe whatever religion you want, and like that's the freedom of America. But to sit here and say that it doesn't have some place in our government would just be anti-historical. They're intertwined. It was started. Our government was started because of religious prosecution by a government. I mean, people can
Yeah,
sit
I
here and
mean,
talk about taxes and all that. That played a part in it. Like that was just the straw that broke the camel's back, I should say.
well, it had to do with the crown making decisions regarding the health and welfare of a nation without any representation from us, and that was wrong. And then you had the religious persecution on top of that. And
Right.
but when you look at, you can go into the halls of Congress and you'll see the Ten Commandments. You can go into the
Right.
Supreme Court and see like what's on there. You swear on a Bible. There's a reason for that.
Right. And it's just funny, like, I'm not huge into one way or the other when it comes to religion. You know me, I have my beliefs, I respect everybody else's beliefs. But I like to sit here and with that thought process saying, I don't have like something that I just like cling to and like I'm gonna fight to the death to it because I'm open to understanding things. I have my beliefs and my system, but to sit here and say that this country wasn't founded with the ideology of Christianity behind it. It's just it's anti-historical. It just really is. Now, was that intended to be something that was going to limit other people from practicing whatever belief that they want here? No, that's not what we're saying. But there are people that will sit here and say, "Oh, we weren't founded on Christian morality," when that was literally the purpose of it.
100%. And like that delves into the philosophical area. And it's like, if I have these conversations all the time on social media, and you've seen them, Nate, and they're very boring, they're very dry. But like, if you don't ground your morals in something objective, right? Like, I ground my morality in God. God is objective. God transcends outside of humanity, right? He
Mm-hmm.
he created a moral standard for us to follow, and we fall short of it every time. But
Right.
when you start to go into the secular framework, it becomes ultimately subjective based on your own individual interpretation. And that is where majority of our collapse in our governmental structure and our societal structures have come from.
Absolutely. And it's just like there are people that'll sit here and tell you they're blue in the face and say that they base their morality off of what is right and what is wrong. But it's then you ask the question, it's like, how do you determine what is right and wrong when you're not giving a baseline for it, right? And you sit here and you say like, well, if you don't believe in a particular god or gods or whatever, who give you the instruction to how to be a good person, what to do is right and what's wrong, then you're basing your morals and ideology off of science, which is an animalistic tendencies, right? We can look at the animal kingdom and say, look, we say murder is wrong, but animals don't. So don't sit here and say that your morality isn't based off of some kind of religious understanding of what is right and what is wrong, because without that, regardless of what religion it is, like that's not even the point at this point. It's, it's religion in regards, regardless, because of the fact that it's the baseline of what is right and what is wrong morality. Like, or else you would just be acting like an animal, doing survival of the fittest, and just making sure that you and yours is taken care of, regardless of their consequences.
Well, yeah, when you look at those people that side on the area of science, like science is nothing more than a method of observation and proving with evidence what is true, right? Based on the
Mm-hmm.
observations. The ethical system comes from the moral framework tied to your religion, right? And a lot of people will say, "Well, I'm non-religious." Well, you're getting your morals from religion. Your ability to determine what's right and wrong. You're you're you are picking and choosing based off of the preconceived notions that have been identified by Christians that that A is
Mm-hmm.
wrong and B is correct. And you're riding the coattails. That's the phrase I was looking for. You're riding the coattails of
Right.
Christianity, and you're trying to do away with it. But if you do away with Christianity, if you do away with a fair amount of religions, you're going to be lost.
Right. I mean, when it comes to these people, you ask them and you sit here and you say, well, so if you're not basing it off of that, what are you basing off of? They can't ever answer you straight. They say just my opinion. But what is your opinion based off of that? Where does it come from? Where does it initiate that, oh, this is right and this is wrong? Because something has to tell you something is right or wrong, or else you just act on your own volition of what feels good, because that's how human nature is. And so for me, it's like it has to be based in something, right? It has to have some kind of understanding based in morality and where morality comes from, or else you're literally just basing everything through nature. And nature can be pretty ugly, honestly.
Well, not just that. It's it's like if it's completely subjective. If one person says something is wrong and another person says, well, let's say you say murder is okay, and I say it's not. It's a subjective framework. And unless we're
Right.
basing it on a standard that exists outside us, that transcends us, then there is no societal structure. Like the Bible itself, in Exodus and Deuteronomy and Leviticus, spell out a framework for conceiving governmental structures and the ability to determine right
Right.
and wrong and what to follow.
Right. And what's funny is you get into like morality, and then you start taking a look at different candidates, right? Like we've been saying, we have the midterms coming up, and the funny, like here in Texas, since we're in Texas and Arizona, we'll talk about that in a second. You have an individual that believes that he is the moral candidate, but then you take a look at his actual stands, right? James Tallarico, one of the goofiest individuals that I've ever come across and I've listened to. Just like this man claims to be Christian, but then you take a look at his stances and how he believes and the things that he says. It's just some of the most wild stuff that is so anti-biblical. It's weird that it's even coming out of his mouth. It's like, where are you getting this from? Saying God is non-binary and we need to mess with all the trans stuff and protect trans children rather than actually helping them with their mental disorder, because that's what it actually is.
Yeah, 100%. And that topic is always very controversial. I've lost accounts from it. You've lost accounts from it. And when we look at James Tallarico, for him to claim that he's Christian and he's basing all of this on interpretation is contradictory to Scripture itself. Because,
Mm-hmm.
contrary to popular belief, there's a lot of things that certain members of society and Congress accept that is non biblical. if you are a believer in Christ and you think that transing the children, transing anybody is okay, that means you believe that God made a mistake.
Mm, right. And like I'm not sitting here saying that Ken Paxton is the all being Christian and what should no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is he's not out here saying, "Oh, I run my campaign on Christian moral beliefs like Tallarico is," while claiming some of the most outlandish, anti-biblical, anti-Christian stuff out there. And it's just completely anti-Texan in all reality. When we sit here, we see what some of the bills that he's passed, some of the things that he wants to push forward. It's just, I mean, he's got legislation that he's put out here in the House that has to do with trans children, abusing of HB1 visas, where it's allowed flooding of individuals to come into the state of Texas and just completely take over in certain areas. It's like, what you're doing is not good for Texas. It's not what we want, and it's not what and you're not going to be elected because of it. People are sitting here saying, "Oh, it's going to be close. It's going to be close." You guys said the same thing about Colin Allred and Ted Cruz 2 years ago. And what did I tell them, Mike? I said, quit looking at the polls because the polls are complete BS. Honestly, I said Ted Cruz is going to win by at least around 1 million votes. And guess what he won by? 960,000 votes. I was like, and that was a close one for the Republicans. That's close. That's what was it, like 7 points or something like that? It's not going to happen this way. There was a mandate that was put forward for Ken Paxton. We're tired of the so-so Republicans, the rhinos, and you think we're going to go and vote for a man that thinks that God is a non-binary and talks about trans children as if that was the most important thing on his mind at that moment? I don't know if you saw that interview, but what?
Yeah. When we look at the Arizona race for governor, we look at Katie Hobbs and Andy Biggs. Now, theologically, me and Andy Biggs don't agree. He's from the Church of Latter-day Saints. I am not. Okay? I would rather have him and his Christian ideology running the state of Arizona because from what I can see from
Mm-hmm.
Katie Hobbs' leadership, Arizona hasn't benefited at all. Actually, in 2018, for those that don't know, she lost a case of racial discrimination and sexism discrimination against a woman. I think her name was
Mm.
Tania, and that just gets
Okay.
glossed over. Not to mention that she
Yeah, I
vetoed
didn't hear
a
about that one.
grocery tax. She vetoed a grocery tax that would have alleviated a lot of affordability issues for Arizonans. She's currently under investigation for uh, lots of fraud regarding Sunnyside. I want to say their daycare facilities, and then she's
Oh,
got
yeah.
the ideology of transing the kids and protecting LGBTQIA people, and they have lost their rights, even though I don't know what rights they've lost. And if she could have her way, she would make Phoenix a sanctuary city, but that would be pandemonium for her. And
Oh, Lord.
yeah, it's just not a good look for Katie Hobbs,
Yeah.
and I don't foresee her winning.
No, yeah. Here in Texas, it's going to be Ken Paxton. It's going to be Mays Middleton for AG. It's going to be Abbott again for our governor. That's just the way it is. That's how Texas rolls. That's how it's always going to be for a while. Like unless we had a mass migration of individuals that believe something completely different, it's not going to go that way. But you guys get out and vote, right? Just because it's Texas doesn't mean that your vote doesn't matter. You have to get out and vote this November. This November is one of the most important elections, and you keep hearing that because it is. You guys want the agenda to continue here in Texas and in Washington D.C. You need to get out and vote. So remember, November 3rd, I believe, is when the actual election date is. Get out and vote, or go early, like I do. I always go the first day of open voting, early voting. Get out and vote, but get out and vote, guys, because it matters. You matter, your vote matters, your voice matters. So get out there. And next week, we're going to have a whole list of other things to come back talk with you guys with. So if you guys have any suggestions and whatnot, drop them in the comments. Send us emails. You guys have our Instagrams and our TikToks and all that. reach out to us. Let us know what you want to hear from us. Mike, any last words?
Yeah, 100%. Get out and vote. Vote, 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 vote. I know there's a lot of people that are only concerned with what they're doing and what their family's doing, but the best way to protect your family is to protect your community. And the best way to protect your community is to go out and vote for what matters. And go on your smartphone. Look up your Secretary of State's website. Look up what legislative district you belong to, what congressional district you belong to, who's running in your governor race, in your senator race, in your House of Representative races, right? These votes matter. Go look it up. It takes 5 seconds. And if you need help, reach out to us. You can find Nate and myself on Instagram. We're active on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, or X, excuse me. We will answer every question you have. We will make videos upon videos of every question you have.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for joining us. Come back to us next week. We'll have more for you, but welcome back to the Legislative Lounge.